My name is Corey Menscher. I come from I don't come from it, but I am here with a company called Findings. Bob Stein actually mentioned us earlier. I wanted to thank him for that shout out. You can also, I don't know where you are, but this is my formal request for one of those 50 invites for social books. So that's that. I wanted to talk to you a little bit about what we've been doing at BetaWorks, which is where Findings is being incubated. I don't have an actual prepared presentation. I'm just going to take you through the product. We launched this week on Monday, so Books and Browsers is kind of our launch party. At least it is for me. We've been doing pretty well. I've been working on it for about a year, but for the last few months we've been in private beta. So on Monday we opened it up to the public, so anyone can go to findings.com and create an account and play with it. So I encourage you to do that and tell your friends too. So let me just read. One of our founders is Stephen Johnson. He's an author. His most recent book is Where Good Ideas Come From, which is an awesome book. I highly recommend it. And he wrote a really good short synopsis of Findings. At its core, Findings is a service that allows you to capture, store, search, and share small snippets of text from ebooks and web pages. It integrates Kindle highlights and web clippings with more input options to come. And it gives you the ability to share those quotes with your peers as well as follow other people's quotes through your timeline. Pretty simple. The genesis of Findings actually came from a piece that Stephen wrote back in 2005 where he was talking about his methodology for doing research for his books. He was using a piece of software called DevonThink to transcribe all of his research that he found, and he put it into this one huge database. And what DevonThink does is it performs analysis on all of that text, and it would show him connections, conceptual connections across all of these different items in the database. So he was able to find these serendipitous connections that he normally wouldn't be able to find through such a large database. And he realized that he'd like to have a networked version of this. And so he met our other co-founder, John Borthwick at BetaWorks, and they talked about Findings for a while. And then the Kindle happened and ebooks really exploded. And so in the last year, we decided, let's implement this thing and make it actually happen. Another word we use, or a phrase we use to describe Findings is a social commonplace book. In his book, Where Good Ideas Come From, he talks a lot about commonplace books, and it really kind of ties in well with our product. I highly recommend you Google Tools for Thought, by the way. That's the piece that he wrote, and it was in the New York Times. Okay, so let me just show you what we've got. Let's go through, I mentioned these 4 action verbs that we can do with Findings. Oh, by the way, this is actually one of our big inspirations throughout the entire development process, and I think it really captures kind of what we're about. So in Findings, we can capture Kindle highlights. If you don't have a Kindle, when you highlight with anything you're reading, it actually syncs those highlights and your notes to this page at kindle.amazon.com. And we developed a bookmarklet that would take this data and bring it into Findings so we could add a lot more useful tools and social tools around it. I think I'm up to date on my quotes, but right now it's looking for all the highlights and it'll import them. But I'm pretty sure I did it this afternoon, so there won't be any new ones. So that's really it for ebooks. So we hope to implement other platforms as the data becomes available. We've been talking about implementing the ReadMill API, which is really awesome. So that'll be in soon. And that's it for ebooks. But we also believe that text is text, and we know that people are passionate about whatever they read, even on the web. So that same bookmark can be used to capture text from a web page. So I can just select text here. I didn't get the whole thing, and post it, and it goes right into my Findings account. So those are the 2 methods right now that you can capture highlights. I didn't add a note, but you can actually add a note to those as well. So let's just take a look at my Findings feed. So there's the quote we just added, and I'm just /Corey. Right. So I added this quote, and I also synced earlier today. I'm reading James Gleick's The Information, which is really awesome. And so these are some highlights that my most recent highlights in my stream. And there's also some web clips and so forth. So we can view the stream chronologically right away. It's just whatever comes in. But I can also view by source. So if I click on The Information, these are all of my highlights for this one book. I can also view all of my James Gleick highlights, so that spans not just the information, but any other quotes, highlights that I may have from his other works. And I can also view, let's go back to my findings. I can view my library, and this is just a nice representation of all of the sources that I've clipped from, includes books and websites and so forth. And you can view this for any user on the site, and I'll get to that in a bit. So one of the useful things about findings is now that my highlights are pulled off my Kindle, I can do keyword searches on them, which I can't do on the Kindle. I can search inside of a book for a keyword, but I can't search across all books. So right away, I think I want to do San Francisco, yeah. Let's see that, I think that had some. Right, so I have just a few right away, but they're from a book, and here's a website and another website. So that's a tremendous amount of personal utility right there. You can also search the entire corpus of highlights across all users for keywords. So this is kind of a fun discovery tool. I'm going to look up Steve Jobs. So right away, it returns a lot of sources. You can actually search within clips, sources, people, and authors. And I know we've been talking a lot about this book, so right away, these are the clips from the new Steve Jobs, a little slow, book. Live tech demo. All right, well, trust me, they're there. Let's look for author too. Authors, I think, are a really useful one, especially when we're talking about websites or periodicals like the New York Times. I'm not getting any results here. Let's go. Well, I can get all of. Oh, good. Wow, that's interesting. He's actually in a book too. But now when I click David Brooks, these are all of the David Brooks highlights from all users on findings. So you can see I seem to be, here's one for me, Soon Is Now, a guy named Andy. But you can also view by publication too. So I can look at all of the New York Times highlights across the site and so forth. Now you can see here on the right side, there's we can display all of the clips for the book, but we also, for every source or every author, you can go into just your clips or just the user that you are viewing. So these would be my New York Times clips. So that's really it. And the search is very handy. But really what you want to be doing is sharing out your highlights to your friends. So one thing that we do is we provide the ability to share out on any social network. So we have this share link for every clip. So you can share it right away to Twitter. You don't have to change this quote. We automatically short it for you. And Tumblr. Facebook is forthcoming. So right away, it's a very easy way to share your highlights. But we also have our own asymmetric follow graph, so I can follow other people. And let's see if I can find someone in my, let me go to, this is my stream. Those are my clips. This stream contains the highlights from all of the people that I follow on findings. Now, I follow quite a few people, but here's Neil, for example. So I can just find people and start clicking away and start discovering what my friends are reading, maybe find out some of the notes that they have on their highlights and so forth. And I can also save a quote from another user into my own notebook. And there's actually two ways to do this. I can click just save, and that gets added to my stream. Or I can add a note to that, and it should, well, it's acting very slow, but it'll add the note, and it'll also copy that highlight directly to my notebook as well. So it's kind of like a Tumblr reblog or a retweet. Let's see if it added. Oh, so when I save a quote, or I add a note to a quote, we actually copy the who it was referred to, who the referrer was. So we can follow the propagation of a highlight across our social graph. So if I copy a quote from Neil, like I did just there, and then someone copies it from me, we can kind of see how those quotes are propagated, which I think is going to make for some really interesting visualizations. That's mostly it. And we also have this homepage that when you log in, you come straight to it. And this is just a global feed of all the highlights that are coming in from any user. You don't have to just follow them. It's just kind of a great way to jump in and find interesting things to read. And we also display the most recent sources that have come in and suggest users to follow. So that's really the product. I wanted to make a couple of points about it. For us, attribution is paramount. We actually don't believe the browser request when we import the highlights from the Kindle page or from a web page. We go out and we make an API call to Amazon, or we look at the page that the web page that you're trying to quote from, and we try to pull the metadata from that page. So that's how we can allow you to browse by source and title. But what's nice about that is it's much harder for someone to forge a quote. We know that the quote's going to be correct because it's coming from the Amazon page for books, for example. But we also know that it's not going to be misattributed because we're pulling that information directly from the source. In fact, I wanted to show you this. When you share on Tumblr, you can't even edit the quote. You can't change the text of the quote. You can't change who it's by and so forth. So I think this is a big deal. I've seen a lot of quotes on Tumblr that are completely misquoted, and we'd like to avoid that. And I think publishers and authors would prefer that too. We definitely believe in openness. I mean, open bookmarks, hooray. We're going to have an API. It's not out yet, but we definitely want people to be able to post highlights into their findings, but also pull them out. To that end, we already have XML feeds available and a JSON feed of your last 50 quotes. It's not going to be all of them, but eventually you'll be able to get all of them out of our system because we believe this is your data. That includes your notes, by the way. I don't think I showed you a highlight that had a note. Here, I think I had. So here's a note. But if I entered a note on my Kindle directly while I was reading, we actually pull that note in and it gets displayed alongside the highlight as well. Oh, and by the way, every highlight also has a canonical link. So this would be the link directly to that quote. And if I found a quote that multiple people had selected, you would see that history of who captured it and who copied it from who, and so forth. As far as privacy goes, we default to private when you pull in your highlights from the Kindle. You can make them public, there's also a setting to make everything default, but as a new user, everything is private. So we hope that calms some fears about information getting out about what you're reading and what you may find interesting within what you're reading. In fact, it's very simple to control that. In my library, I can just go to this view. There's a list view, and there's also this is the grid view, and then there's a list view, which is actually like a source management tool. And you can see I have some private sources and also public, and it's pretty simple to select everything and make private or public, and so forth. Just wanted to stress that this is 1.0 software. We have a lot of ideas for what we can do. It's pretty bare bones right now. It's really just about collecting and sharing, but we have a lot of ideas for better navigation, better search, organizational tools, curatorial functions so that you can curate a list of highlights, and maybe have an analog of Twitter lists where you can create a reading circle, is what we're calling it, so that your classmates, your reading club or whatever, you can just follow a small group and see what you're highlighting within that small group. And that's pretty much it. So thank you. I guess questions? Can I? Okay. Yeah, you had one. Well, as far as the character, she asked what the character count, I guess the character limitation is probably, and also if any of the formatting is retained. The character, we have like a max limit of, I think, like 2,000 characters, but the nice thing about using Amazon is that we're already adhering to their standards. So I believe they have per publisher, per book standards. So if you can't highlight or you can't make a highlight too big, we can't get it. So automatically we adhere to that. We are saving some formatting. It's not being displayed right now, and there are definitely issues with character encodings and so forth. So We're working on that because we know that that's definitely important, especially if you want to bring the highlights into another product. So, hope that answers. Go ahead.
How did you get permission from Amazon?
I'm not going to comment on any partnerships, but we do believe that this is your data, especially your notes, so we believe this is a tool for that, for storing your marginalia and getting it out of your own reading material. Anything else? Oh, one more. No?
So,
Okay.
I look and I'm on the site, it's wonderful, this is a great, cool thing, I think, and very useful.
Thank you.
Gee, I want to buy that James Lee book.
Oh, yeah, well, guess what? There's a buy on Amazon link, buy every book. Oh, he said, I want to buy that James Gleek book, and I forgot to mention that when we display the books, it is an affiliate link. That's part of our business model, but you can buy the book directly from Amazon, and then as other platforms come on, we'll try to implement other stores as well. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, I'm trying to buy it, and I can't
Oh, well, talk to the Kindle Amazon support. I don't know what to say. All right, thank you.